I remember my very first Derby. I was living in Seattle, working in TV in Seattle at King TV, and I got a call, and they said, hey, we've got this job opening. We'd like you to come here and audition for it. And so I did. I didn't know anything about Kentucky or about Louisville. I was like in the far northwest corner of the United States, covering things in Alaska and down to Brazil, and I was working on a comedy show with a guy named Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye and I fought crime on this show. I wasn't going to tell you this, but we fought crime. We were speed walkers. It was pretty good stuff. That was one of our gigs. But anyway, so I looked up, as I was flying on Northwest Airlines to come to Louisville for this job audition, I actually opened the magazine, the airline's magazine, and looked on the map to see where Louisville was. So that just gives you a sense of how little I really knew about where I was coming. So the first time I stepped foot into Churchill Downs was Oaks Day, 1994. And my job was to cover celebrities. And cover celebrities basically for 48 hours. And I didn't know the lay of the land at all. When I think back to that whole time, it was like I was water skiing, slalom skiing behind the boat while my rascally brother was driving, and every time I'd go out of the way, he would like turn left or right really fast and gun it, and I was always on the edge of just kind of a in control, or maybe just disaster would happen at any moment. And that's what my very first Derby felt like. When I got to Oaks with my photographer, our job was to get 10 celebrity interviews. So we would walk all around the track, and once we got an interview, we had to label a tape and take it back to the TV compound, which was between gates 10 and 17. We would label things like, you know, Bo Derek, actress, 10. Let's see, Wonder Woman, Linda Carter. By the way, one of the most beautiful women I've ever interviewed. Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart, incredibly well dressed. So time was ticking. We had to get these things done because they would use them actually on Derby Day. But I think my biggest problem that very first day was that I didn't realize there were 2 different days of racing. I didn't get that Oaks and Derby were 2 different days. So I came prepared with 1 hat and 1 dress. Right, ladies? Not good, but it gets worse. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So my photographer's saying, well, you know, we're running out of time. You got to get 1 more interview, because we had to have 10. So I went back to the old turf club, the old beautiful turf club. And I would talk to the bartenders. And I said, hey, is there anybody else in here? Any more celebrities? And go, well, not really. But there's this one guy that won $143,000 last year. And he's sitting out there under the terrace. And my photographer says, he'll be fine. Go and interview him. So we went out. And sure enough, this very nice-looking, silver-haired man had won $143,000 the year before, and I interviewed him. And afterwards, he said some very nice things about the colors of my eyes, and he said, why don't you come back and watch the Derby race with me tomorrow? And I thought, all right, well, whatever. But I didn't really think I'd be able to even find the old turf club tomorrow. So we leave there. Now, here's the second thing I didn't understand. I was supposed to go cover the Anita Madden party. And the Anita Madden party, I'd heard the word Lexington thrown in there, but I thought Lexington Road, which is about 10 minutes from where I lived on Cherokee Parkway. So I head down to the Seelbach Hotel, and I get into a limousine. Remember, all this stuff is happening. I've never been here before. I don't know what's going on. I get into a limousine with a woman named Kelly Ripa, and and she was on a soap opera called All My Children, right? And she was with one of her co-stars, and I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Kennedy, of that Kennedy family. And so my photographer and I are supposed to do a story with them about their experience of going to the Anita Madden party. And we were supposed to do some videotaping in the limo and this and that. So off we go. Well, there was no way we could videotape anything that was going on in that limousine. I still like goosebumps when I think about this. It was before Mark. So we get to the United Madam party, and again, I'm supposed to run around and interview celebrities. Kelly Ripa and Mr. Kennedy take off. They're gone. I've never ever saw them again. But I did run into someone I knew from Seattle, and I was pretty thrilled about that. His name was, he's an actor named, oh my gosh, John Corbett. I almost said John Carter, and that wasn't right. John Corbett. I knew him from, he was doing a show called Northern Exposure at the time out in Seattle, and so I had done a bunch of tours with him, and we kind of became friends, and so I saw him, I was like, oh my goodness. So he helped me get a lot of celebrity interviews. You know, Dennis Cole, of course, and then they brought Anita Madden out in this purple gown, and it was all crazy stuff to me, but I got my job done. And then my photographer took off, and I couldn't find him. And now it's around 2 in the morning, and I really want to get home because I've got to cover the Derby race the next day. So Kelly Ripa's limo wasn't going to take me home. My photographer was gone. So I found a ride with another television station crew, and I got home that way. Now, remember I only have one hat and one dress for Derby and Oaks? When I got home, I realized that my dog had chewed around my one hat. So this was around 3:34 in the morning, so I super glued that back together and got to WHAS by 9:30 in the morning. My photographer came around 10 o'clock in the same clothes he had on the night before, and a gold lame vest and an empty bottle of champagne. So I don't know where he'd been. I got back out to the track with a different reporter. And after I completed my next 10 interviews, I was done. And I was pretty spent. It had been pretty chaotic. So I thought, you know, I haven't seen one single horse race since I've been at this track. I'm going to go down to that turf club and find that nice man. And so I did. And I also found John Corbett, my friend, at his table, and Sybil Shepherd, and a few other people, and I had my Derby down there. The nice man bought me, no, I'm off of work at this point, so don't worry. I wasn't breaking any rules. I was done. The nice man bought me not one, but 2 mint juleps, and I knew those were pretty pricey. I'm thinking, this guy is loaded. And then he said, who are you betting on for the Derby? And I said, well, you know, I don't really know anything about horse racing. And John Corbett said, you ought to bet on Rockamundo. Dead silence, right? Who's ever heard of Rockamundo? So the nice man who had won $143,000 said, here's $100, go bet that. And I said, oh, I can't take that. He said, then here's 200. I said, I cannot take that. Can't take that. So he said, 3, 4. When I got up to 500, I thought, okay, I'll take that. So, because that was my rent at that time. So off I go with John Corbett and the man who won $143,000, and we go to the $50 betting window. That's the only time in my life I've ever done that. And I put down all $500 on Rockamundo. Yes. So sad. But anyway, so I have gone to the Derby probably 20 times since then, and I've always covered the celebrities. I've learned to love doing that. I know all the tricks of how to find them. I know the back ways and around the corners, and I know who to ask and what to do. I've learned to always have 2 dresses and 2 hats. I know where the parties are that I'm going to in the evening, and I know what time I should come home. I also have to say I've learned to just embrace the whole thing. It's just a wonderful, wonderful reason to live in Louisville, Kentucky. And for many years, I would go back down to that turf club, and I would look for my friend who won the $143,000, and he was always there. And we'd have a nice little chat. He never, ever bought me another mint julep, nor did he give me any money. But I will never forget that guy or that Derby. And that is my story.